This is the Cerebral Edge with Coach Chris, the only show that gives you the edge to be 1% better every day. I'm back again with guess who? Dr. Grove Higgins. One more time. The only reason we're back to back is because when he's here, he's a busy man. I got to get as many episodes as I can because he's a wealth of knowledge. And he's got a new project coming out, right?
Yeah.
So what's your new project that you have coming out?
Well, I have finally got a book ready to publish.
Really?
And I have my patients, of course, to thank for it because it's built off of problems that I keep seeing in the clinic and such. So, like I've told you before, the types of patients I see, oftentimes I put into that affectionate category of dumpster fire, right? Mm-hmm. Hopefully, nobody ever takes that personally. But basically, they have layers of problems. Yeah, they'll come in for that shoulder pain, but there's other things that are going on that are actually getting in the way of their effective therapy to fix that shoulder, right? And when it really comes down to it, the biggest problem that they have is they got this low level of inflammation, sometimes really high level, but the low level of inflammation going on 100% of the time. And the question then comes up as how do you fix that, right? If you just throw drugs at it and such and have them go to their medical doctor or whatnot, or why is this happening? And when you look at what really underpins inflammation in the system, it's metabolism and metabolic dysfunction, and the statistics are pretty scary when you think about it, in the sense that 88% of Americans, and this study cited by the NIH and the CDC and such like that, 88% of Americans have some sign of metabolic dysfunction. And the ultimate end that everybody's familiar with metabolic dysfunction is diabetes. Right?
Yeah.
And when you take that out to its logical conclusion, it is the underpinnings of things like stroke, heart attack, kidney disease, all the top things that kill us.
Stop things, yeah.
Right? Are all underpinned by bad metabolism.
So let's break that down a little bit. So when you talk about inflammation, what exactly, you hear it all the time, but what exactly is inflammation happening? What is that process?
Yeah, so there's two kinds of inflammation. One that's very productive, right? So you go work out and you get those muscles really ripped up from lifting weights and things like that. Those tissues need to repair, right? Or you get into a car accident, you have an injury. Those tissues need to repair. Inflammation was designed to go in and basically take away the damaged components of the tissues, so the muscles in the case of exercise, or the gash on your arm from the car accident, whatever it is. It brings blood to the area, brings other cells to the area to eat away the dead tissue and the damaged tissue and such, and prepare the way for growth. For new tissues, stronger tissues in the case of exercise, right? And scar tissue in the case of injury and such. And so that's a productive kind of, in very simplistic terms, of inflammation.
Okay.
But bad inflammation is when it is inappropriate to the damage that's being done, right? So if somebody is sick, and they have inflammation that now is throughout the whole body. It affects different body tissues differently, but what it's doing is it's irritating the whole system, right? So the really simple way to think about this is somebody that, if you're one of these individuals that you get really sore after exercise, right? Now, some of that might be because you did stupid stuff and whatnot. But a lot of times, after you've even done an arm workout, the whole body can get sore because now the whole body is flooded with this inflammation, and now nerve endings all over the body are being irritated. And now you have pain in your knees, and you didn't do leg workout, right? That type of thing. But the people that have this tendency to have lots of just stiffness and pain all over the body. They might have skin issues all over, right? Skin is your largest organ, and it really is a reflection of what's happening in the gut. They might have gut issues. They just don't recover well from exercise as well. They might feel, guys, they might not feel quite as up to go get the world, right? They might not feel as virile. Libido might drop, things like that. When you look at all of those problems, there's always inflammation that is involved with all of those problems, and how do you fix them? And most of the time, if you've got one of those problems, you got more than two.
Right.
Right.
And then those are your so-called dumpster fires, right?
Yeah, and it's unproductive inflammation that's actually causing damage.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep, and that's linked to metabolic syndrome in what way?
So metabolic syndrome is taking the system that is under stress, and oftentimes, again, from dietary standpoint, and it's becoming what's called insulin resistant. Right?
Okay.
So insulin is a hormone, and it's a really important hormone. If you look at it from the really basic standpoint, it's an anabolic hormone. It tells the body to grow.
Right.
And so take the stuff that's in the blood, like sugar and even protein and such like that, and let's put it into the body, right? In the sense of you want to store some of that in the muscle, right? So blood sugar, glucose, right?
Yep.
Or glycogen.
Glycogen, yeah.
And then anything that's left over when that's stored, when that's full, it goes to
Body fat. Yeah.
right? And so it's really important for survival. And if you ate things and didn't have insulin, you have what's called type 1 diabetes, right? And you will die. So that's why a type 1 diabetic has to take insulin. The problem with a person that has plenty of insulin is eating sugar and just eating too much in general. That insulin stays high for a prolonged period of time, and the body starts to habitualize to it essentially, and it's starting to cause the cells to stop responding to it. So now that blood sugar doesn't go into the muscle, it doesn't go into the fat. And here's where it gets really interesting, is that those tissues, even though there's this overabundance of fuel in the system, enough blood sugar to power an elephant, it can't get into the tissues. The tissues think that they're starving, literally.
Right.
And so what do? In order, just like in the instances before, they start calling for help, and that's inflammation.
Right.
So now you start having inflammation that's auto-generated because the tissues, for all intents and purposes, are starving, and they're calling for help. They're calling for more blood and everything. Unfortunately, what that does is it puts even more stress on the system, and now the person is metabolically sick, and that is metabolic syndrome.
Okay. So metabolically sick means that they're starting to get, their insulin resistance is starting to go down, right?
Right. Sensitivity is going down.
Sensitivity is going down. Their muscles aren't able to bring in the glycogen, and their muscles think they're starving, right? So then they're saying, hey, I need some help. So then they're releasing hormones in your body saying, I'm under constant distress.
Right. And certain body parts are affected at different times. So so your performance will go down one way or the other, and then you'll start getting sore more frequently, things like that. You start getting higher blood pressure because your kidneys are not responding to the signal properly anymore, so your blood pressure starts to go up. You start having problems with hormones. So guys' testicles stop responding to insulin, and that's a really important thing to have for men and women.
Yeah.
Because if you don't have enough testosterone in the system, it's not just about libido and stuff like that. It's about energy. It's about recovery from exercise. It's about sleep. It's about attitude. It's about brain function and stuff like that.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things. A lot of the hormones overlap in a lot of functions, and you really need them all working together to work. But so now you start having, for all intents and purposes, parts of the body that become diabetic.
Yeah.
And aren't responding anymore, aren't functioning anymore, and now you have somebody that is truly a dumpster fire. That again, they hurt their shoulder, they go to see great therapists and manual therapists, and they go get the injections and take the right drugs, and they're not responding to things. But because the body is sick, metabolically sick, nothing works.
Right.
Not like it should.
Yeah. So when you give them these therapies, all of a sudden the body's just like, hey, I'm done. Like, I don't know what to do with this anymore.
Yeah, staying where I'm at right now is safer than trying to change, because change always requires energy. And if I can't get energy from in my system working right, there's no reason to change. In fact, there's a huge amount of resistance in the body to change. So now you go to the gym, you exercise, and you get weaker. You go to see the doctor, you walk out feeling good, but you're still broken.
Or you get that adjustment and you feel good for a second, and then all of a sudden you're back.
Yep, and
right?
we keep coming back.
Keep coming back. So what are some ways that you start to fix that with your patients? Like what do you start to introduce to them?
So over the last a few years, and this is the reason that I wrote the book, is that they needed to have a guide. They needed to have something to break the cycle of inflammation and start getting more insulin sensitive, break that resistance and such. And so I've been putting patients on very successfully on a very simple 8-week ketotic elimination diet.
Okay.
What that looks like is this. It's very simple. We're gonna take down sugar down to close to 0. We got to be below 50 grams. 50 grams is 4 teaspoons. Most people put that in one coffee.
That's
right?
like, yeah, that's a lot.
Right?
That's not a lot, I meant.
That's not a lot.
Yeah.
That's a lot to get rid of for most of us.
that's a lot
right?
to get rid of.
That's
is what I mean.
that's more than a donut. Every time you have that much, right? That's a lot more than that. Anyway, so take sugar down to almost 0. And then we're going to make you hypoallergenic. We're going to make your food hypoallergenic. So we're going to take you down to as close to one food as possible. And if we're going to pick a food, we got to pick a food that hits all the marks and fills all the boxes nutritionally for you. And that is going to be meat. All right, animal products. We are designed very well. You can digest a whole steak, and the reason that you can, you'll know that is that you'll stop going to the bathroom as often because there's not as much in your gut because your body does a really good job, unless you're that sick, of digesting fully meat, whereas plant matter does not. And some of us are just, frankly, we don't handle plant matter very well. We got to rebuild our guts to do that really well. And then lastly, getting back to fasting. The human body is fantastic. We store fat for a reason. We store fat for when we can't eat. We've got portable energy.
Oh, yeah.
Right? But most of us are so good at burning sugar only, we don't know how to tap into that, right? And it's not that you can do it. We got to condition the system to learn how to find where the energy is stored and pull it out. So that way you can use it. Because the body will take 100% of protein and fat stored in the body and turn it into sugar in the blood.
Yep.
So it's the one thing that we never need, but we get too much of.
Yeah, it was interesting. Somebody told me the other day, they said, you know, there's no such thing as an essential carbohydrate.
Amen.
And I was like,
amen. In fact,
that makes sense.
Yeah, my philosophy is this, and I can't claim it for myself. There's several doctors that carbohydrates, sugar, it can be an excellent tool to get the most out of your exercise, right? So if you're doing sprints and hard workouts, now it becomes a tool to get more performance, to raise the bar, right?
Without a doubt.
Right, which is awesome. Otherwise, it's entertainment. Right? Carbohydrates are entertainment because your body supplies you 100% of whatever you need. So unless you're doing marathons, hitting the weight room really hard and doing sprints and stuff like that, you literally don't need another carbohydrate to be optimal.
And it's interesting when you bring up fasting, because then you hear, you know, working out fasted. You know, some people are like, well, should I work out fasted? Should I not work out fasted? And I just look at them and I thought about it for a minute, and I was like, you know, in the military, that's all we did was fasted cardio in a sense.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
We'd wake up 5:30, we'd go salute the flag, and right after that, we were running or doing whatever we needed to do.
Yeah.
And then we had breakfast.
The body was made for survival.
Yeah.
So that means that you can operate well without food. In fact, if you look at a lot of the research, especially with athletes, is that, you know, as long as it's moderate intensity, you know, not super high intensity like wind sprints type stuff, we were designed to actually work really, really well. In fact, our performance goes up in the fasted state. Why? Because you need to be even faster to chase down your next meal, right, in the wild, than you were when you were fed. Because you had time when you were fed to get your next meal. But when you're starving, when you're fasting, well, you better be able to run faster, wrestle the bear harder, things like that, right? So actually, performance can go up with fasting.
Makes sense. Okay, all right. So what are some good fasting windows that you have people do?
So a lot of people are scared to death of fasting.
Oh yeah.
And so one of my favorite ones is, let's just do 12 hours.
Okay.
Right. So that's, you know, 6 o'clock at night to 6 o'clock in the morning, right? And or whenever you wake up and whenever you go to bed. Let's try to fit it in with that. Start with 12 hours. 16 hours of fasting. That's even great. So now you're spending 16 of your hours of your day asleep and not eating. Right? So 8 hours and 8 hours, right?
8 hours
and
and
then
8 hours.
if you're getting good sleep, right? And then you have 8 hour window to eat. And then I have a lot of people that get really good at 20 and 4. So they'll fast for 20 and they'll eat for 4 and they fit everything in there. The benefit of that is that you feel lighter through the whole system. The whole system just feels lighter. Your gut never feels full anymore. And the cool part is that when you get good at fasting and tapping into your own energy reserves, now food is more satisfying. Go for a long hike, right? Go camping. Food tastes amazing when you're camping. You're working hard, you're walking, right, and stuff like that. And,
That's very true.
Right? It's the best tasting food in the world is when you're camping, right? So food tastes better, and you respond to it like you should.
Yeah.
Right? So when you put something in your mouth, you get full with the appropriate amount of food, and your body turns it over. It's much more efficient at processing it. So one of the things, being a strength guy, protein should stimulate testosterone, right? And anabolism, so building more muscle, right? But when your system is constantly overfed all the time and has too much sugar, it stops responding to that. So now when you get really good at fasting and you've learned how to get your energy reserves balanced properly, and I say this like you're going to think about doing it, it's more of we got to train your system how to do it. It does it on its own, right? Then every time you put something into your mouth, it goes to where you want it to go, and it has the effect. Food becomes a signal that says, hey, let's make muscle, let's make hormones, and let's do this now, right? Because now's the opportunity.
Yeah, because now it's it's fast, it's cleaned out. It's like, okay, this is where I need it to go versus being full and going, where do I put this? Right.
So now food goes to muscle instead of fat, right? And we get just really efficient at taking everything in. You get more efficient at your exercise, you get more efficient at your food. Life just gets a lot easier, and we see not only decreases in that inflammation, but now pain goes away. I have patients that are like, I don't think I need to come see you anymore. I'm not hurting anymore. I'm like, awesome. Perfect. Come see me when you're feeling so good you do something stupid and you have a reason to come see me.
Right, that would be me most of the time. Right. But yes, that's great. So in your book you dive into fasting, you dive into the carnivore diet. Yep. Is there any other avenues that you take?
So yeah, give the carnivore diet and we're doing it as 8 weeks. I can guarantee you no one's going to die in 8 weeks. And in fact, I have one patient, her husband got on it because his doctor, he was retiring early, and he was so excited. He goes to see his doctor right after retirement. His doctor's like, I need to put you on a statin. Your cholesterol is way too high. Yeah. It's 270. And your LDL is way too high. We need to put you on a statin. And he's like, I just retired and I was really healthy before retirement and I don't want to do this. And he goes, can I do this safely? And I'm like, yes, you can. It's 8 weeks. He got 6 weeks in and he says, I'm feeling so good. He lost some weight. He was already pre-active, so he didn't need to lose weight. So he lost some weight. He was feeling so good. He went to his doctor and says, I want you to test me again. I want to know where I'm at. And his doctor's like, no, it's too soon. It's too soon. You're not going to see any changes. Right. So he went and paid for his own blood panel. Okay. And his LDL dropped 75 points, and his doctor's like, okay, I don't need to put you on one.
Anybody that doesn't know, 75 points in 6 weeks is pretty much unheard of.
Right. And what is he eating? 75% fat. Yeah. And most of it's saturated fat. Most of it's saturated. And here's the reason why that works. What is LDL? LDL is your liver's attempt to package fat to go to cells. To repair cells, right? So you work out, your LDL actually jumps up a little bit. Goes up, right? Right? Yeah. Because the body's repairing the damage from that. Yeah. When you start to become insulin resistant, you have damage through the whole body happening all at one time. So the liver starts to crank out more and more LDL in order to deal with the damage. And the problem with that is that then you have all this fat floating around. So if you remain insulin resistant and you have all this sugar in the blood and you have all this LDL in the blood, a thing happens to the LDL. It becomes glycated, right? A sugar, a carbohydrate component is being added to it, and now it becomes sticky. Oh. Now it becomes the thing that nobody wants. The plaque. The plaques in your arteries. And so your blood pressure goes up and you get fragile arteries that then become clogged and all this other stuff, right? But it's not because there's something inherently wrong with your cardiovascular system. It's because your whole system is metabolically sick. We fix that, we fix most of those problems.
Most of the pain goes away.
Most of the pain goes away. The cardiovascular stuff starts to drop away. You become healthier. Right. By making you healthier, we fix problems.
Right. So I'm going to ask you this, right? Because everybody looks for like the 8 weeks, right, to freedom. What do you do after those 8 weeks?
So that's a good question. So essentially during that 8 weeks, we backed the train up. We took everything off the train. Right now, it gives us a chance to start to rebuild you and put you back on the tracks. Essentially, right? So some people they find that this feels so good and it's so easy of a diet.
Right.
They just stay on it.
Right.
Right. And I've known people that have been on this type of a diet for years, and others start to just put some of that stuff back on. But the beautiful part is that now when I put something back on the train, when I put a new food into my mouth, I know how I respond to it.
Yeah.
I can sense it, and not only feel it, but if I'm using things like glucose monitor or something like that, I can really see it. Whereas before there was 50 things coming in at one time. I don't know what's making the difference and what's hurting me.
Yeah.
Right? So now we can start building you back up. So if you want to have your salads and stuff like that, we can start putting that back on. And then can I tolerate a dessert every now and then, and treat carbohydrates as entertainment rather than a staple.
Right.
Right? And we can rebuild you in that way. And so now you become metabolically flexible and your body learns how to shift from sugar to fat and back and forth. And that's a healthy person.
Yeah. Yeah. To be able to use both systems efficiently.
Yeah. Right. And so that's what's really exciting to me about the book is I'm saying this does not need to be hard. And it's put into a kind of a Q&A because I get asked questions all the time by my patients. So I took those questions, put them into the book, and led people from the problem to the solution, the ketotic diet, and to this elimination diet in the carnivore style, and then give them the program.
So here's another pushback question, if you will.
Yeah.
Right? So a lot of people that try keto diets, right? They'll sit there and they go, "Man, I tried it for a few weeks and I just felt like shit and I don't feel good on it, right? I feel like lethargic," or I've had people go, "I feel like I'm going to pass out."
Yeah, and when you're making that conversion, it can be tough. But here's the reason why. Insulin drives blood pressure.
Okay.
Right? It's one of the big stimulants for the kidneys to retain water and to keep your blood pressure high. When you stop needing insulin, guess what happens to your blood pressure? Right? And so now your energy is really low. You get that woozy feeling. You feel like you have the flu.
Right.
The keto flu.
Yeah, the keto flu. Yeah,
right?
that's what a lot of people call it.
And so if your insulin's not up, guess what you have to actually put into the system to make it work? More salt.
More salt, yeah.
Because that's the other thing that stimulates us to retain water and to
stay hydrated.
and to stay balanced. So that way the balance of water in the cells and outside of the cells becomes balanced. We need more salt. And so just by supplementing more salt, it fixes the problem. And then people they miss I never got the flu, right? Because they had enough salt on board to make up for the fact that you're not using so much insulin.
Okay, so that way it keeps their blood pressure up so they don't feel like they're going to pass out or lethargic.
Exactly.
So I mean, with that, is there a certain type of salt that because I've heard people go, you got to have pink Himalayan salt, or you got to have sea salt, or you got to have, iodized table salt, right? Me, I think iodized table salt's fine. Because I think pink Himalayan salt, while there's minerals in it, I think it's kind of pixie dusting. Yeah. And it doesn't really give
It's funny. We take dirty salt and we make it clean and we charge something for it. We make it dirty again and we charge even more for it. Right? So the key here is if you're going to put anything into your mouth, make sure it has the highest value that it can. Right? So if you're trying to just stave off feeling crappy because your blood pressure is too low, go for the iodized salt. All right, fine, right? It's what's around, it's easy, right?
Perfect.
Simple like that. But if you can get something that has more minerals in it, right? So the pink Himalayan salt has more minerals. It's dirty. It's got more impurities in it. It's not dirty in the sense of bad.
Right.
It's dirty because it has all of these, it has a little iron, it has a little copper, it has all this stuff in it. Get it in because your body could use it.
Yeah.
It's going to be helpful. And there's better sources than others for it.
Okay.
One of my favorite ones, if you want a designer salt, is Redmond's Real Salt. Okay. They have a electrolyte that's cheaper than anything else on the market and actually tastes really good. So it's very encouraging. To drink.
Yeah, when I take salt, especially before workouts, it just drives my athletic performance crazy.
It's like your other favorite performance enhancing drug, caffeine.
Caffeine. I was going to say, wait a minute. But yeah, that's great. Great information from Dr. Grove Higgins today. When's the book going to be out? Is there a time today?
It should be out before the end of March.
Before the end of March.
Yep,
And is
yep.
it going to go on Amazon?
It'll
Is it
be
gonna-
on Amazon, and I might do a limited run print.
And what's the name of it? We never discussed the name.
It is called the Keto Q&A.
The Keto Q&A.
Yep,
All
yep.
right.
8 weeks to look to feel great, lose weight, and probably look great too. But I didn't put that in the
Feel
title.
great, lose weight, and look good naked.
Yeah, well,
right?
and get rid of your inflammation. That's really what it's about. So,
No, it's about looking good naked. Not who cares about it.
well, that's everybody's ulterior motive. Amen.
All right. Well, this has been the Cerebral Edge with Coach Chris. Stay strong.